Hello there, dear viewer. Today I want to talk about something different, but something that's been on my mind lately. It is burnout. And I'm talking about burnout in terms of film watching and collecting physical media. Burnout being the concept that you become overwhelmed because you're doing something too much, too fast. There's too much to keep track of and catch up with that you just end up fizzling out and not wanting to do anything. So this video is going to be a bit different. I'm not going to be reviewing any films or recommending any Blu-rays. I just want to talk about this topic and hopefully start a bit of a discussion, because perhaps you are not experiencing this or haven't, but I know there are people out there who have, because they've been messaging me on Instagram and stuff. So let's just talk about it. Burnout in general is something that is talked about a lot on YouTube and in business circles, because it's the idea that people get overwhelmed because they need to be keeping up with a certain pace of things. They end up doing too much, too fast, and it gets too much. I know that on YouTube recently, there's been a whole thing where some massive YouTubers, much bigger than me, with like millions of subscribers, have just quit YouTube because they have just become burnt out by the whole process. And that's something that I can relate to because I've experienced that in the past. I know lots of other people have. And I think it is quite normal these days because of the unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves and on others. So if we're looking at it in terms of movie watching and collecting physical media, you might be watching my videos thinking that you need to be keeping up with the latest 4K releases, or if there's a 4K disc that has an amazing review, you feel like you have to go out and get it, because if you don't, then you're not keeping up with the current thing and you feel a bit inferior. And let's be honest, we don't want to feel inferior to other people, particularly people that we might look up to. I experience this all of the time, both in terms of films and YouTube, but also life in general. And it really does come down to comparing ourselves to others. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy, and I do think that is absolutely true. But no matter how much you hear that over time, in the moment, it's very hard to rationalize that you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people. Obviously, social media and YouTube is a massive part of this, and that's where I experience all of these same feelings as well. You know, I look at other YouTube channels and I go, oh, I wish my content was as good as theirs, or I wish that I was more eloquent and could express my opinions as well as they do. Or it can come down to, you know, I wish I had better connections within the industry. I wish I could be chatting to people directly at some of these great film companies. And so it's very easy to compare ourselves to other people, and it can sometimes ruin our own enjoyment of what we love, which is films. I've also heard from people that they experience this with Letterboxed, which is a website and an app that I love using, but I absolutely see the dangers that you could come up against by using something like Letterboxd and how it could affect your film watching experience. For example, I was chatting to someone who said that last year they set themselves the goal to watch 365 films last year, so one film a day on average. And they said it started very well. For the first month or two, they were watching one film, sometimes two films a day, and having a great time doing it. But then after that, it very quickly became tedious and a chore, and very much something that they felt a bit enslaved to. They felt like they needed to keep up with this challenge that they had set themselves, or they were a failure. And I understand why people feel like this, because often within our own social circles, with our family, friends and colleagues, we are often the film person, the person that is obsessed with films that people come to for recommendations, or they come to talk about films. And if you feel like you're not keeping up with that expectation of yourself, then it can sort of prey on your mind, maybe not consciously, maybe subconsciously, but it's very much tied to your identity. And for me, if I can talk personally, obviously I make these videos, I do them frequently. It's very much a part of my identity and how people perceive me. You know, people come to expect a certain thing from me. And say, for example, I decided to not watch films for the next month. Well, that would seriously change things for me, because I'm the film guy in my social circles. So if I'm not watching films, then what am I to these people? What would I be to you watching this video right now if I stopped talking about films? Well, I really wouldn't have much to offer you. Now, this is me talking from my perspective, but from other people's perspectives, like my friends and family and colleagues and stuff, they see me as much more than this. They obviously don't just see me as the film guy. But like I said, I think subconsciously, we very much attribute our own worth to keeping up with certain appearances of who we are. So what can we do about this? How can we change these feelings of burnout and feeling like we need to keep up with appearances? What I would recommend is removing some of that expectation of yourself. So for example, with physical media and collecting Blu-rays, I know that some people have goals to collect everything from a certain label or everything released from multiple labels. And starting off, this can feel like quite a virtuous thing, a really good thing to do. But it can very quickly become a negative thing on your own mind. I've talked in the past how at one point I had every single release from Arrow Video, Eureka Entertainment, Indicator, BFI, and a few other labels as well. And it was very much a thing that every month I was trying to keep on top of collecting all of these. And this was compounded by the fact I was making YouTube videos talking about all of these releases. So in my head, I had convinced myself that if I buy all of this stuff, I'm at least being productive in talking about it. But it very much became a chore, both financially, because it was very expensive, and also in terms of my time, feeling like I had to keep watching all of these films. I know that there are people out there that want to collect every title in the Criterion collection, for example, and some people out there are up to date with everything. And realistically, you can't like everything in the collection. And I can also guarantee that any feeling of fulfillment it provides you in having collected everything will very soon dissipate. You will soon find something else to fixate on, because that is the nature of human desire. We create these goals which get bigger and bigger in our minds as we fixate on them. And then when we finally achieve them, that desire doesn't just disappear. It just moves on to something else. So this is not me saying don't try and collect everything from a certain label. If it makes you genuinely happy and you don't experience any negative feelings about it, then by all means, go ahead. I'm just talking about, from my perspective, some of the things that personally affected me in my collecting of these labels. Another tip that I would give is do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. Even if you're someone that makes YouTube videos, or you post on Instagram or Facebook, or even if you just share reviews with friends and family, do it for yourself, first of all. Don't ever make it into some kind of obligation or chore, because it will very quickly become something that you start to have a disliking to. If I can just give you an example, there's someone who messaged me and we were talking about Letterboxed again, talking about the film reviews and giving star ratings to the films that you've watched. And I explained my process on this, which is very much, I give a gut reaction on how I felt watching the film and the experience I had. I genuinely do not think about it for more than 5 seconds when I give a star rating to a film. I don't care what other people think, and I know some people have said, I give too many high ratings to films, as if that should matter to anyone. In fact, I had a very angry message from someone when I gave some of the Star Wars prequels 5-star ratings on Letterboxd. And they were saying, how dare you? And that I was somehow influencing the overall star rating on Letterboxd by doing it. Which, let's be honest, who cares? But this person that was messaging me on Instagram was saying how they would struggle for a long time after watching the film, thinking about how they should rate the film. And I think in their head, it was very much a concrete thing that if they give a star rating now, that is a solid opinion that they are giving. And they obviously cared a lot about how other people would judge their rating of the film. So this is what I mean when I say do it for yourself. If you're doing star ratings, do it just for you. That's what I do. I keep it as a personal diary of how I felt watching a film. And the same goes for physical media. Don't buy films in the Criterion collection or on 4K or from Arrow Video that you feel like you need to own, that you feel like you need to watch and you need to love it if you are going to be accepted into the wider film community. Because all of that is complete BS. and I get a lot of negative comments on this channel, which you won't see because YouTube just automatically flags and hides them, which is great. And it isn't constructive stuff. It's stuff like, oh, you should die because of what you said about Jean-Luc Godard's films. And if I paid any more than a second of attention to those sort of negative comments, then it could very much affect how I view myself and how I view this interest of mine that is cinema and enjoying films and just loving the whole thing. I feel like I'm rambling a bit now because I didn't prepare any notes for this video. So I'll just sort of conclude by saying that I'm there with you if you feel any sort of burnout with film watching or physical media collecting. I guess the takeaway message is do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. And that probably goes for a lot in life. Don't let other people's potential perceptions of yourself get in the way of your own enjoyment of something that you came to love, because you don't want to ruin that. You don't want to make it a chore and something negative in your life. Now, this is where I ask you, what are your thoughts on the whole topic? Have you been experiencing this sort of thing in the past? If you haven't, that's absolutely great, by the way. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to have these same feelings, but I would genuinely love to hear from you. And if you want to, feel free to share your own experiences in the comments of this video, because it could also help other people in similar situations. And if this is the kind of thing you'd like to talk about directly with me, then by all means, go to my Instagram page and just send me a direct message and I'll try and get back to you. And if there's enough interest, I'll do another video following up on the stuff that we talk about. So I hope you found this in some way useful. I'm not going to recommend you go and watch any more of my videos now, because that's not what this video is about. It isn't about making you feel like you need to do something. So with that said, enjoy your movie watching. Please do. Please take great enjoyment from it and try not to let any negativity creep in. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.